Welcome to a Monday edition of the First Things First podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Wolfe. Catch us Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern on FS1. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Tell us what you think and leave us a review. Time now to bring in Nick and the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. We're going to start with the Panthers and the Patriots. Cam Newton had 4 touchdowns and threw for over 300 yards in a 33-30 Panthers win over the New England Patriots. Yes, the Patriots lost the game. Meanwhile, the Pats defense struggled for the 4th game in a row, giving up 444 yards. However, Tom Brady said the entire team was responsible for this loss.
We got to do a better job all the way around. We left some opportunities out there on offense and came back to get us.
We just got to play better, coach better. We just got to do a better job. It wasn't good enough today.
All right, so let's dive into this game because Tom Brady can blame himself all he wants, and Bill Belichick can blame himself all he wants. But how big of a problem is the defense in this? And is the defense really to blame in all the Patriots' mess right now, guys?
Absolutely. I mean,
that's one place to start.
Brady's been good.
Yes.
All my concerns about the 40-year-old quarterback, none have come to fruition yet. Maybe it will when the weather gets colder. Maybe it will if he gets hit later on. But thus far, this is the 2nd straight season. Brady in his first 4 games, at least 1,000 yards, at least 10 touchdowns, no picks. No one else has ever done that. Brady's been good.
Offense has been good.
Offense has been good. The defense has been the worst ever. Not the worst Patriots defense ever. The worst football defense ever. CC, the Pats are on pace to give up more yards than any team ever and give up more points than any team ever. You cannot win a Super Bowl. You cannot compete for a Super Bowl. You might not be able to win your division with a defense that bad. And when you really dive into, well, what's the one game the Pats defense wasn't awful? The Saints game? Remember, the Pats had 10 days to prepare for that. The Saints had 5. Mm-hmm. The one game the defense played well, the Pats had played on the previous Thursday. The Saints had played on the previous Monday. So, yeah, this isn't Chicken Little now. The sky might actually be falling for the New England Patriots defense.
There was a couple people, because, of course, Belichick, that's his standard after they lose. He's going to take a lot of the blame, but he also goes through, we all need to play better, coach better. Everyone needs to do their job better. But there's either 2 people that you can blame, all right? Because that's what we do. We saw the results, but who can we blame for this, all right? First of all, it starts at the top, Bill Belichick. Well, how would you blame him? Well, he's missed on some personnel. Stephon Gilmore, who he brought over from Buffalo. They signed him to a big contract, all right? They've missed so far. Now, he might turn it around, but for the amount of money that they paid him and what they thought they were going to be getting from him, they don't equal out. Well, who else? What about all the guys they let go? Chris Long, Coney Ely. They thought he couldn't play. They cut him after making the big move, getting him last year. Now he's making plays for the Jets. The other person, if I was going to blame some people, because you got to be able to blame people in pro sports. It's not college. Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator. That defense, you know what they look like in the first 4 games? They look like that clown face on that shirt that he had on when he got off the plane for the Super Bowl.
The Goodell clown face shirt?
When I was watching them yesterday, I was like, I've never seen a Bill Belichick defense leave guys wide open, leave areas, gaps unattended. Like, so fundamentally, one guy comes in motion. They got 2 guys that run all the way on the other side of the field to chase him. I mean, some of the basic things that football teams, what we expect out of them, let alone a Bill Belichick. So Patricia, I'm really concerned, like, where they are defensively from a teaching standpoint, because it's one thing about playing good defense, but if you can't line up, it's impossible to play good defense.
Can I just expand on things Cris said there? So Coney Ely.
Yes.
They trade for him. They trade a 2nd-round pick. They got a pick back, but the real thing was they were getting Coney Ely. Mm-hmm. He doesn't make it out of camp. He had 4 pass deflections yesterday for the Jets, including maybe the biggest play of the game for them. Tipped the pass, intercepted himself, almost returns it for a touchdown. A guy you didn't mention, Chandler Jones.
Yes.
They decided, you know what? Either not good for our culture or we don't want to pay money for him. We're going to trade him for Jonathan Cooper. Jonathan Cooper, former top 10 pick, didn't work out in Arizona. Jonathan Cooper doesn't make it out of camp. Chandler Jones, since they traded, since he went to Arizona, 15 sacks in the 20 games he's played with the Cardinals. Still a very productive player, would definitely be the Patriots' most productive front 7 player. The guy, they just traded their first-round pick for offense and Brandon Cooks. They knew they needed defense. They decided, you know what? We're going to give Brady an extra weapon. Brandon Cooks, save for the one game against the Texans when the Texans defense just couldn't figure stuff out.
He caught the game winner.
In the 3 games aside from that game, 8 catches, 163 yards, 0 touchdowns. And we've seen the Patriots can, and by the way, they traded for him before they knew Edelman was going to be injured. Like, they have made some personnel mistakes. There's no question.
And we let him off the hook because let's not forget Chandler Jones was followed up by Jamie Collins.
Yeah.
Which ended up in Cleveland. Now, they didn't want to sign Jamie to an extension. They said he was freelancing. Now, the reason why people won't draw those conclusions because last year they finished with a great defense. And there was no dip during the season because I look back on it and I was trying to see, is there a part in the season last year where they were bad that I missed on? And besides the Super Bowl, 2.5, 3 quarters of the Super Bowl, there were no indicators that they would be this way in 2017 defensively.
A couple things. One, you mentioned that the Patriots defense had a decent game, an okay game against the Saints. They had 10 days to prepare. They're coming. This is a short week for them now.
Yeah.
Now they're going to play Thursday night, so this is even less. So it's going to be less time for them to get themselves together. Number 2, what's the one thing we usually know about Bill Belichick? If you don't play well, you either get benched or you get released. It's one of those, he doesn't have a lot of patience. His leash on people is very short. So I'm just curious where that extension lies with regards to a defensive coordinator and what the future holds for Matt Patricia if they don't turn this thing around pretty quickly.
Well, Belichick always has patience with his coaches. And then also, Belichick can be more hands-on as far as the defense is concerned. Like, he can start being more involved. They're always trying to find pieces. So they will always continue to do that. Work out other players. They will not stand for what they see on the film today. So he will make changes. Where will he go? It won't be within the staff. All right? He'll make changes as far as what they try to play, trying to get guys in position to do things. And typically that means doing less. Let's be more simple.
The only change you might make amongst the staff is tell Matt Patricia to stop carrying a pencil around when his play sheet's laminated.
Laminated.
I still don't get that one. But
somewhere out there, Matt Patricia's sharpening that pencil today because it's got nowhere to be used.
I'm gonna sound another alarm bell for the Pats. They are one of the only teams in the league, one of just a handful of teams that through 4 games have had the benefit of 3 home games. So the rest of the way, they only got 5 left at home. And in those 3 home games, what has happened? They blew a fourth-quarter lead and lost to the Chiefs. They blew a fourth-quarter lead and nearly lost to the Texans.
Rookie quarterback.
And they got soundly beaten through about 3.5 quarters at home by the Panthers.
By a quarterback who was playing awful.
By a quarterback who was coming off one of the worst games of his career against New Orleans.
3 games.
Well, okay, we can discuss Cam later because I'm going to take a slight victory lap on that later, but let's wait. He was certainly coming off a horrific game against New Orleans, and they lose that game. The Patriots have not lost more than 2 games at home in a season that Tom Brady played since 2006. They are already 1-2 at home and easily could be 0-3 at home. Nothing about this team, aside from its passing offense, looks like, forget a Super Bowl team, an above-average team. The special teams don't look great. The running game doesn't look great. The defense, as we said, is pacing to be the worst defense ever. They are not protecting home field. All of these things are highly problematic for a team that went into the weekend with the best odds of anyone to win the Super Bowl, that went into the season with far and away the best odds of anyone to win a Super Bowl.
Ever.
Right.
Ever.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So I just, CC, Jenna made the point about, guys getting released or guys getting benched. Here's the problem for the Patriots right now. That defense isn't going to get faster.
No.
Those linebackers, you can coach them up all you
Yes.
want, but they're not going to get faster, CC.
No.
Also, this defense has given up an average of 32 points a game. They can't rely on having to score more than 32 points a game every single time out on the field.
Saints have been trying that for 5 years.
Not a great day for the Dallas Cowboys as they lost to the Rams. Cowboys now 2-2 on the season. Ezekiel Elliott had his best game of the season so far, gaining a combined 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Dallas couldn't stop Todd Gurley and the Rams offense. They surrendered 35 points. Here's quarterback Dak Prescott after the loss.
It's frustrating. I mean, we come out and we're on fire, we're feeling good, and then we go into halftime and we come back and it's not the same. So it's frustrating, but it's about finding what it is. And we're going to definitely do that going back tomorrow and Tuesday and get better at it.
It's still early in the season. We got a lot of football left to play now. We got a lot of getting better to do. We know the potential of this team. We just got to, come out on Sundays and execute and play how good we are.
So, Cece, this is the second straight week that the Cowboys have played, one good half of football. But, football game is comprised of 2 of those. You put 2 of those together, you actually get a game.
Sometimes even more than that.
Even more than that. What is keeping the Cowboys from playing 60 minutes of solid football?
Well, for some reason, we give the Cowboys credit that we give some other teams, teams that have had success, say like Seattle, New England, teams that consistently have gotten, into the playoffs and have advanced in the playoffs. We act like this Cowboys team has been good for 10 years together. This is a very young Cowboy team. The only success this team has had was last year's success, and that was led by 2 rookies. So what you see is a lot of times the inconsistency is based on the lack of maturity, the lack of having a killer instinct. And that's what you see with young football teams. You have to, not to dumb it down, you have to learn how to win NFL games. You have to learn how important before halftime, those last 2 minutes. You have to learn that even playing at home, the turnover battle. So there's a lot of things that football teams, we just think that they know that. Dallas has a hard time paying attention. And what we saw yesterday was the special teams, the defense, and the offense were not in sync. But enough with Dallas for a second. The Rams.
Pretty good.
The Rams are really good.
Pretty good.
Sean McVay right now is the coach of the year. When you take a franchise quarterback in Jared Goff that people were saying he's a bust, you turn around his career. Todd Gurley, who couldn't run the football after having a phenomenal rookie season, and he's back to being an elite player in the NFL. Over 40 points 1 week, over 40 points again, and put 35 on Dallas in Big D. I mean, a lot of this will be about Dallas because they draw all the headlines. But, man, we would really be doing a disservice to the Rams if we didn't talk about Sean McVay. How old is he, Nick?
31.
I don't do the numbers around here. How old is he, Nick?
Younger than me.
31 years
Yes,
old.
and he's just like Nick. He's a young genius, or thinks he's a young genius.
Right.
But
Todd.
what a tremendous job taking a chance and a guy turning around a franchise. There's nothing more. The most unappreciated skill in the NFL is coaching, because there's really only a few guys who are dynamic, great head coaches and can lead men and have that type of turnaround.
You mentioned Todd Gurley. Right now, his career is pacing like the television series Friday Night Lights, like an all-time great with a year or two that we're just going to pretend didn't happen when we think about it long term. Anyone that watched the show gets the reference. I understand the people across the desk from me probably don't.
No
That's
idea.
fine.
None.
On the Cowboys.
He was home every Friday night. Now you know why.
Okay, that show wasn't on Friday. It was called Friday Night Lights. It's a football show based on a great football book by Buzz Bissinger.
You're
All right.
cute when you get mad.
Thank you very much. On the Cowboys, I'm going to focus on something Cris taught me. This defense was able to survive last year because it didn't have to play much defense.
No.
They weren't. Last year, the Dallas Cowboys were second in the NFL in time of possession.
Mm-hmm.
This year, through 4 games, they are 23rd in time of possession. Their per play stats are not that different. What the Cowboys do, what the defense gives up per play, it's not that different from this year to last year.
What is the difference, Nick?
They got to defend a lot more plays. And it was most evident in the second half. Jenna, you were like, why couldn't the Cowboys put together back-to-back good halves? Well, here's why the defense couldn't put together a good second half, because the offense couldn't. In the second half, the offense did not have a single drive that was longer than 2.5 minutes. Defense not getting any rest. Here's how the Cowboys started the second half. A 5-play drive for 15 yards. A 5-play drive for 22 yards. A 3-play drive for 4 yards. A 3-play drive for 1 yard that ended on an interception. By the time those 4 drives are over, Cowboys are down 32-24 after having a lead at halftime of what, 24-16. What happens is they allow 16 straight points by Los Angeles because their offense can't get anything going, which doesn't allow their defense to get any rest. Which then, I mean, it's a cycle there. So it's the same players mostly. And I know Sean Lee was out, and he's one of their 2 best defensive players. It's a big loss. But Sean Lee being out doesn't affect the offense not able to pick up first downs.
Is it also possible that after a year of watching this team succeed, watching the offense succeed, watching these 2 rookies succeed, that maybe now teams are starting to figure them out? Teams are starting to actually defend against them specifically and put systems together that'll actually defend against them. Is that a possibility as well?
Preach, Jenna. Like, now they have a book on them. We didn't have a book on Dak. We didn't have a book on Zeke. And Zeke did have a good game. It's a solid game. But he can't take over the game. He can't dominate the game. Des Bryant had a solid game. But the second half, and Wade Phillips made some serious defensive adjustments. The second half, he's one of the great defensive coordinators. He can always find him a job, and you will always find him instantly turning around the defense. One of the great hires by Sean McVay was, listen, I don't know how to do this. Let me get a guy in here. That's all he does.
Right, that's old enough to be my grandfather, literally.
Yeah, so that combination.
It's working.
And the adjustments that they made on Dallas, that Zeke can't take over. He had a good game, but he can't take over, and you don't see other players having big numbers to help support Dak and Zeke.
Here is the first segment. I sounded the alarm bells for the Pats defense. I'm not going to sound the alarm bells for Dallas, but I'm going to tell you something incredibly concerning about the loss yesterday. So going into yesterday's game, Dallas Cowboys, if Dak Prescott throws for at least 240 yards, that's not that much. But if he throws for at least 240 yards, they were 10-1. The one loss was the epic playoff game against Green Bay. They played good enough to win. Either team could have won that game.
They got Aaron Rodgers.
Right, they got Aaron Rodgers. They had a couple 50-yard field goals at the end, one that Skip, I think, still dreams about to this day.
The hand of God.
The hand of God, getting it over. Okay, so all right, so Dak played well. It must have been the running game. They ran for 189.
Yes.
Dak throws for a big number, a number that was big enough to where they had been 10-1. They run for 189. You mentioned Zeke played well, and they had the one home run by Alfred Morris. And the defense still can't hold up. Sorry. The defense still can't do just enough. If you tell me, I knew the Rams were Jenna told us last week, and I couldn't believe her, that the Rams were the league's highest scoring team.
Yeah.
But
34.1 a game.
Once Jenna educated me on that,
okay.
I was like,
all right, pick up what's happening.
No,
here.
I'm being totally serious. I didn't know it. I didn't know it. Despite knowing that, if you'd have told me the Cowboys were scoring 30 on Sunday, you know what I'd have done? I'd have made them my lock of the week, which I might have done anyway. Yeah. And, I mean, you can't give up 35 at home to this team, even though this team's been playing really well, is your point. The Rams, we shouldn't forget them.
Because if they faced Jared Goff yesterday, Jared Goff is like Aaron Rodgers light. Guess who they face next week? Aaron Rodgers.
The actual Aaron Rodgers?
The actual Aaron Rodgers.
The real live Aaron Rodgers?
So if yesterday was a test of what they can do against a high-scoring offense, next week is going to be even tougher because they've got a high-scoring offense and an offense that sometimes runs off script.
Yeah, Green Bay just don't have a Todd Gurley.
No, that's true, man. And Todd Gurley, Zeke, for one of the first times in his career yesterday, did not look like the best running back on the field.
Great point.
Eric Mangini still with us on First Things First. Deshaun Watson Watson had himself quite a day yesterday. Watson threw for 4 touchdowns and ran for another in a 57-14 beatdown of the. You can call it a beatdown. It was pretty much a beatdown. This the same guy who apparently couldn't beat out Tom Savage in the preseason. Here's Deshaun Watson after the game.
Just grown, with my confidence, being able to operate and run this offense, making sure we're in the right place, and just bringing the energy and leadership to this team.
I mean, these guys, they believe in him. He works very hard. He's got a fantastic way about him. I mean, he's a humble kid.
I have a long way to go, and it's still early in my career, and just hope to build on it.
Love this guy, but I think we should get Coach caught up on a little context, a little background on things that are happening here.
Here we go.
One person at this table picked the Houston Texans out of the blue because people looked at me cross-eyed to perhaps represent in the AFC. That would be
the Super Bowl.
That's
our Super Bowl pick.
That was my Super Bowl pick because I said all they're missing, Coach, is a quarterback. You get a good quarterback in there, which we'll talk about over the course of the next couple minutes, has been hard for them, and you might be able to do something. So, CC, I will start with you then. Was Deshaun Watson the missing piece in this offense?
Well, I mean, they haven't had a quarterback. Bill O'Brien has won this division without a quarterback 2 years in a row. Great pick. Great pick. We're not in the Super Bowl.
He picked the Giants.
Why do you bring up old stuff? Let's stay in the moment, Jenna, as you were, CC.
He's the player I thought he would be. I was shocked and disappointed that the NFL, I don't know if it was the system he came out, I don't know if it was the workouts, I don't know why he wasn't drafted higher. I'm glad he ended up going to Houston compared to some other landing spots. Now, Coach, you mentioned this. How sick are the people in Cleveland this morning? I mean, after watching something like that. Chicago, their guy hadn't even played yet. And he can't even beat out Glennon. So we know what that looks like. So it's amazing sometimes that my overall theory, where you end up and what type of system, Deshaun with Bill O'Brien is a great combination, all right? Playing indoors, right? They're not a great running attack, not a great offensive line, but a great defense. He has support. Launching his career in the AFC South, where they've won 2 divisions. The only established quarterback is Luck. He's hurt. So, I mean, you're talking about a tremendous number of things happening, and we have to be surprised by the early results because I watched him in training camp. I watched him in the preseason, and we did not see this. I mean, he looked like any other college quarterback coming into pro football ready to be baptized. But it is great to see. Bill O'Brien's done a great job with him, and sometimes it's not years that you can judge a person, because his overall maturity, and he's played in so many big games.
Against great defense.
That when he gets in the NFL, the game is not moving too fast for him. I'm very excited about what his future holds and excited to see what the rest of the season and how much they grow it.
I remember watching him in college, and the one thing that I wrote down is he has unique ability with the ball in his hands. And I've seen a lot of quarterbacks who are very good with the ball in their hands, but he was special, and writing down how difficult he was going to be if he was able to develop as a pocket passer, because you'd have to do so many things on every single down to make sure that he stayed in the pocket. And you see that ability. Now, what I really like watching is he's in the Patriots offensive system, okay? That's Bill's background. That's what he's brought to this team. And the unselfishness of his reads, which you'd expect with a younger quarterback. But if he can continue to develop the range of throws that he made from the pocket, I thought that was impressive as well. His command, even from last game to this game, has gotten a lot better. So it's really encouraging. Now, I just want to caution everybody, this is a very small sample size. And the coordinators are going to catch up.
Well,
the coordinators are going to catch up.
We saw that bite Carson Wentz last year, where through 4 games he looked outstanding. Then you have a book of tape on him. He regressed a little bit, took the offseason, tried to take it to the next level. So that's right. There is a small window of time where being a young quarterback almost plays to your advantage, because even though you don't know what you don't know, right? There's not a book on you. But to Chris's point, Bill O'Brien, his first year, 9-7, his quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick. His second year.
Is he in the league?
9, and he is.
Is
I think somewhere.
Right?
I think he's backing somebody
Jameis'
up.
backup. Jameis is back.
Okay, no problem. No, I mean, not playing, but in the league. Go ahead.
His second year, 9 and 7. Brian Hoyer is his quarterback. He's in the league. We saw him.
Yeah, San Francisco.
We saw him in San Francisco.
Stellar.
His third year, 9 and 7. Brock Osweiler's his quarterback. He's in the league. He's back up in Denver.
He was in street clothes yesterday.
Okay, well, he's on a roster. But the point, to Jenna's point about how good could this team be, if you won 9 games, they didn't win 9 games with average quarterbacks. They won 9 games with markedly below average quarterback play. If you then just get average quarterback play, is that worth 1 extra win? And if you get slightly above average quarterback play, is that worth 2 extra wins? And so I was watching the game yesterday, and you guys are going to say it's too reactionary, and that's fine. But I was watching the game yesterday asking myself this question. Of the quarterbacks in the AFC South, if I could have any of them moving forward, Blake Bortles is a non-qualifier. Marcus Mariota, Andrew Luck, Deshaun Watson. I have real injury concerns about Luck. I have real NFL ability concerns about Mariota. Now, for Watson, maybe it's playing in his favor that he hasn't played much. But I was watching the game saying, I think this guy right now is the best quarterback in his division. Right now already, 4 games in, is the best quarterback in his division.
Well, Andrew Luck's not playing.
Yeah.
I mean, how are we making that?
Yeah, I totally disagree with you on that, because Andrew Luck, if Andrew Luck was in Houston, everyone in the AFC would be terrified because we know what he could do. The other thing you mentioned about Carson Wentz, the reason why you can't put Deshaun in that category, his receivers failed him. Carson Wentz. Yes. Did you see Will Fuller? Did you see the emergence of DeAndre Hopkins?
Welcome back to the league, DeAndre.
I know.
Yeah, because they have a legitimate quarterback. He's throwing the ball outside the numbers. He's throwing the ball deep down the field. So I don't expect that dip like Wentz went through, because Wentz didn't get any help either.
The Broncos improved to 3-1 with a 16-10 win over the Oakland Raiders. Denver's defense held Derek Carr, who left the game in the third quarter with back spasms, to just 143 yards. And they bottled up Marshawn Lynch for just 12 yards on 9 carries. Nick, let's talk about the Broncos first. How impressed are you with Denver so far this season?
Man, I've seen this recipe before. Choke you out defense. Maybe best in the league defense. Just good enough quarterback play. And that recipe, won them a Super Bowl. People say, oh, no, they had really good quarterback play. Peyton was the quarterback. No. Brock Osweiler was the quarterback part of that year. Peyton came in and it wasn't the Peyton from the year before or years before. It was just good enough on offense. And this defense seems to be back operating at maximum capacity. And most notably, last year, what was surprising about this team, CC, even though they were 9 and 7, they were terrible for some reason against the run. 28th in the league, rush defense. This year, 1st in the league, rush defense. If they are defending the run like that, and you have Aqib Talib and Chris Harris on the edges, that's going to be a tough team to score on, man.
Okay, Dusty, I need this. There's a defensive tackle that the Denver Broncos got from Cincinnati Bengals. His name is always covered. He has a big old hair.
Oh, so it's not Derek Wolfe?
No. That's the reason why. He's the answer to it.
Tamana Pecco.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the reason why. That was what they were missing in the middle. So now they have tremendous speed on the edges, but you cannot run against him in the middle. Derek Wolfe has always been the unsung heroes around that front, because he has the ability to not only play over the center, the guard, and also the tackle, but they also have great chemistry and great communication. So, yes, he was a huge pickup for them. I'm going to say pump the brakes a little bit, because when you don't score points, a bad snap, a turnover,
100%.
A bad call, like they could have lost that game.
Even the game yesterday with E.J. Manuel coming in.
I mean, that's the only thing that saved them was an E.J. floater.
Yeah.
I mean, coming down the sideline. So I'm a little, you have to be so good on defense. We've only seen a few defenses win like that. Baltimore, Seattle, but ultimately you still need big plays. And that's what they had with Peyton. Not the completions, 25, but you knew that he could put a dagger in you with the big plays in the passing game.
A couple weeks ago, we had this Raiders team as one of the most potent offenses in the league. And I get it. You can run through the list of names on the Denver defense. But when Marshawn Lynch is running for 12 yards, what is going on? And I know that Carr had some back spasms, but hopefully he seems to be okay. What's going on with this offense?
Well, Crabtree out of the game. All right. Amari Cooper struggling, the only guy they had to worry about with drops. I don't know about the official stat, but I haven't seen anyone drop as many passes of Amari Cooper except OBJ, your boy.
No.
Now he's our guy.
No, I'm just trying to tell you because every time you make a reference, he makes a great catch. You swear up and down he has the greatest hands ever.
All right,
and I think he's got 6 drops in 4 games. So stop. Don't ever mention that ever again.
Pause the show real quick. I gotta pull back the curtain a little bit. Cris Carter, now I don't have a lot of friends. Cris Carter is one of my best friends in the world. There has been like bubbling tension in the relationship the last few days, and I haven't known why.
Not tension, you just won't listen.
I now know why. Because I said last week OBJ has better hands than Cris. I was joking, but there is.
But
that has like been. It has been a
Did you see when he twisted his thumb? And
Yeah. He's so offended. He's turned on Odell.
Welcome to my side.
Okay.
CC, how many times has your thumb been twisted?
Please.
Coach Mangini came back. We must have done something well. He gets a handshake every time. In and out. Makes him feel important.
I was raised right, ladies.
Yes, you were. High five. Coach, we're going to talk a little Giants here. They fell to 0-4 after another nail-biting loss. This one 25-23 to Tampa Bay. It's the second straight week they've lost on a walk-off field goal. Odell Beckham had 7 catches for 90 yards and 0, count them, 0 canine-related antics. This is Odell after the game.
I would have never thought we'd been over 0-4. But it is what it is. That's what our record is. Can't sit here and cry about it.
How do you convince them that, I know mathematically it's possible, but that a playoff berth is still in reach, that the season...
We need to win a damn game.
Granted, I'm not sure why you're asking about playoff situations after a game like that. But, Coach, let me set this up for you. The first week, we all complained about Eric Flowers. The second week, we all complained about Odell Beckham. Then we complained about Eli Manning. Is this now the week of we have to talk about the defense, or is this team just kind of a mess right now, and they've got to figure out what their identity is?
This is a difficult situation. You figure last week they lost on, what, a 61-yard field goal? The odds of that happening
a divisional game on the road.
Yeah, are pretty small. And look, they had another tough one this week. They're getting behind in a lot of these games. They're catching up. It's different problems each week. One thing that they should not have to talk about is off-the-field issues. One thing they should not have to talk about is any antics during the game. To me, that stuff should be put to rest. There's so many other problems that they need to concentrate on. That's what everybody should be focusing on in that locker room. Do I think these problems are fixable? I think they're fixable to a point, and to some degree, you come in with such high expectations from last year, you've got to reset your expectations, and you've got to figure out, okay, what are we going to do moving forward?
Because their offensive line is playing better. They might have found a running back. Odell is healthier. He's getting back to being the player, but he doesn't have much help. Sterling Shepard, big play in the Philadelphia game. He's not a dominant player. Brandon Marshall looks old.
Yeah, I mean, he had 6 catches yesterday. The longest was 11 yards.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like an old wide receiver. So now we've looked at all these different things. It's easy to blame the coach. Like, it's so easy. But their defense, and a couple times, their defense could have bailed them out. I mean, they could easily be 2-2. Easy. 61-yarder. This game right here, they're leading. Also, Odell on a controversial Nick's eyes got pushed out on a 2-point conversion. They could have gone to overtime even with that field goal. That 2-point conversion was huge. You know, so it's easy to point the finger at the coach. But to me, the most glaring thing from this game, defensively, get a stop and get off the field. And during the game, their tackling was awful. They gave up so many yards after the point of contact, which led to a lot of big plays by Tampa Bay. So people can look at the coach. That's a more tangible thing. Flowers are left tackable. That's more tangible. Eli, I mean, he's gotten used to the criticism. Odell, anything. If he had done the same thing Antonio Brown did, and they lost,
it's a huge
no, it'd be a leading story.
It'd be a huge deal.
But just some of the basics that they're not doing. And yesterday, to me, the biggest thing was defensively, they didn't tackle well.
I agree with you entirely on the defense. I'm not letting the defense off the hook, but since we have Coach here, I want to ask about a coaching point. Not putting all of this on Ben McAdoo, but I thought he made an emotional decision when you needed calm in the face of a storm. I know you're 0-3. They're down, it's just 7-0 early. The defense has forced 1 3-and-out and allowed 1 long drive. It's 4th and 4 in the first quarter in a 7-0 game. 4th and 4 on the 30-yard line. And they go for it. Like, that struck me as the coach was panicking. Like, there's no, I mean, when you're watching, and I know that you're hesitant to kill a coach on stuff like this, but 7-3 is, you're fine.
Okay, first of all, I think you're missing something before it because there was a bunch of rain before the game.
Mm-hmm.
Early in the game, there was a bunch of rain. All the fields in the state of Florida, they can only take so much rain because they're closer to sea level, all right? The grass base is different. So the ability to be able to kick a field goal earlier in the game, that could have went into the decision-making. So it's either, because they couldn't punt, it's either go for it. I'm not defending him, but I'm just going to tell you there were some other variables in that decision.
And you make a really good point. What you do with your special teams coach at the start of the game is you say, okay, going this direction, what yard line can we kick from? Do we feel comfortable kicking the field goal? Going the other direction, it's the same thing. Weather plays a factor into that. And in that 30 to 35-yard zone, you're trying to figure out what's the best thing. Do you have a chance to pin them at the 1? Do you want to punt and take that chance? 4th and 4, it's still relatively high percentage. Do you want to take that chance? And how do you feel about a field goal? Because if you miss it, now they're going to start with great field position too. So it's not always a function of this is desperation, we're going to go for it on 4th and 4. There's 3 different sets of factors that go into that decision.
I think that game number 4, off a couple bad decisions that he made in Philadelphia, gets to your point that, no, Chris, I've seen this a couple times. So I understand that point.
And I saw do you play blackjack?
A little bit.
Okay, so like so in blackjack, there's one non-mathematical decision, 12 versus a 2. Right? Like, it's basically a coin flip. Just chill. And the one thing is that typically people, if you're going to hit on that, then always hit on that. If you're going to stay on that, always stay on that. Guys, you know they're kind of just playing by their gut.
Why, though?
What?
Why do you hit on it, always hit on it?
I don't want to get into a deep gambling thing. I'm just telling you
he takes a deck of cards out of his pants. He's like, let me show you.
And so I bring that up because McAdoo then, and I know it was 30 minutes later, so maybe the field's a little bit better, but on 4th and 1 from the 12, a situation where the math would say 4th and 4 from the 30, typically you kick. 4th and 1 from the 12 is more justifiable. Now you're not down 7-0 anymore, you're down 13-0 anymore. Then he kicks a field goal. He strikes me as a guy, at least yesterday, and I think in week 3 as well, that is making emotional decisions in the moment rather than the calm that you need from the head coach. And I know they're tough decisions.
I just don't know if that's fair. You feel good, obviously, from the 12-yard line kicking the field goal. It should be a
gimme.
Yeah, a gimme. So he probably wanted the points there. At the 30-yard line, in a situation where you've got bad weather, you don't know whether his thought process was, we don't feel comfortable kicking this field goal at this point. We have a good 4th and 4 play. We have a play that we like here. Let's go for it.
Also, I'm going to go back to week number 3, Nick. They had a 4th and 1 in Philadelphia. They could not block Philadelphia. The worst time to run the ball in a 4th and 1 is on the road because the linemen and the offense, there's one huge advantage to being offense. There's 2, but I'm going to give you one. The number 1 advantage to being on offense is you know the snap count. The number 2 advantage on offense is we know where we're going and we know what time we're going to do it. But when you have crowd noise, in Philadelphia, it was 4th and 1. They went for it. The left tackle got smashed. The nose guard got smashed. And I'm sure that the coach, when he was thinking about 4th and 1, I don't know if we can block Gerald McCoy. Like, I don't know if we can. We had the same thing last week where we got stuffed in the backfield. So I better take these 3 points and go about my business.
And to the point you're making, which is not just blame the coach. I understand that's like an easy thing to do on TV. It's not what I want to do, not just blame the coach. A lot of Giants preseason prognostication, mine most notably, that thought they were going to build on the 11-win season, took as a given they were going to have an elite defense again. Last year, they had the second scoring defense. This year, it's the 25th. Last year, they had a top 10 yards per game defense. This year, it's 25th. Like, you're right. We focused on Eric Flowers. We focused on Eli. Focused on Odell. The defense, back-to-back weeks.
Right.
You have either a tie or a lead. Other team has the ball, and you let them drive the field.
But, Coach, I'm trying to teach them. Like, they're slow learners. My girl over here, she's a quick study. But he is remedial. So the overall average, it goes down as far as learning. There is no carryover, Coach, from one season to the next. So him and all the other experts thought that, they're going to pick up right where they left from the Green Bay playoff game.
You can't do that, and that's one of the biggest mistakes that everybody makes is thinking because you finished here, that's where you're going to start. And you preach that to your team over and over and over again, that what happened last year has no effect on what happens this year. People always say they're defending a championship. I thought there was a great line, I forget if it was Parcells or Belichick who said it, said you can't defend something that someone can't take away from you. We won that championship. That was in its own box, and now we've got to go back and do it all over again.
You say there's no carryover from season to season. What's most important for the Giants now is letting there be no carryover from game to game. So at 0-4, you better go into that next game.
They got a good get-right game.
All right, they got the Chargers, but they have a good game where they have to just show up as
Wasn't
if it's
your betting special last week?
As if we're just starting fresh. It's the only way it's going to work. Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern on FS1. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.